One of the most important parts of our body is our foot and ankle. It's the first part that hits the ground and gives us that proprioceptive feedback, that information. So we have all these receptors and nerves on our feet that will be sending messages up to our brain on a constant basis. So if the terrain or ground is a little bit uneven, our toes can then move and kind of create that stimulus so the muscles then know how to react. We've also got massive momentum, so as we walk we've got this push down on us, constantly kind of falling forward as we start to propel ourselves forward. And gravity as well, which pushes down, so all these have a big kind of role to play within how we locomote and move. So you can imagine then with all that pressure pushing down, we also have the ground, so the ground reaction force then comes back up, transfers up through the foot and sends more message to the brain. So it's a bombardment of information constantly going from the foot to the rest of the body. So imagine then the foot isn't doing what it should do, or it's somehow restricted. It could be locked up due to compression, due to a previous injury, due to scar tissue, or it's just not as stable as it should be. So it could be over-sprained in the past, you could have some damaged ligaments, something that's not holding it in place, or a weakness around that area. So when I think of restriction or pain in the rest of the body, particularly the back, I go to the ankle first. Now, when I have patients that come and see me, the best thing I kind of keep in my mind is I look at the body as almost like a building. And when I think of a building, I always think the structure or the foundations have to be solid. They have to be kind of grounded in a way to create stability through the rest of that building. If they don't, then we know that the structure above is going to fail. So we look at the ankle first. And the best way to do this is something that you can do, you know, if you're sitting at home watching a little bit of telly, or if you're, you know, just in the office, or you have a little bit of time, all you have to do is just check the mobility of your toes, your midfoot, and your heel or calcaneus. So as you sit there, just pop your shoe off, grab onto your toes, and literally give them a waggle, and just see if, you know, the first kind of forefront of your foot is mobile. So if you can move it back and forth, if you can pull it back up to the sky, if you can then push the toes away from you and then pull the toes towards you, it's really, really important. And then if you can squeeze or rotate the foot kind of inwards and downwards, or if you can pull those toes back up and rotate them towards you. Now that's just in the toe area. We can then move up into the kind of midfoot area, which is just as important. That's really, really important, how that midfoot area works in relation to stimulating the rest of the body. So once again, I see if the midfoot can kind of waggle up and down, I see if it can kind of push in and out, and I see if I can bend them down or bend them back up again. But the one I really love is the calcaneus, the heel bone, and that's my go-to in the evenings. If I'm sitting there or I have a little bit of time, I literally grab onto that heel and I'll give it a kind of a waggle back and forth to see if I can turn it in and out first. I'm going to see if I can then pull it away from the rest of my leg a little bit and then push it up towards the rest of my leg. And then I'm going to see if I can kind of turn it down and in and then pull it up towards me. So the calcaneus has a really, really big role to play in the relation of locomotion. So as our foot hits the ground, that heel makes contact and it goes into eversion. Now the eversion, that turning out of the calcaneus, stimulates so many muscles above. So if the calcaneus is not doing it, then those muscles don't get turned on in that chain reaction up to the rest of the body, particularly the spine. So give it a go, spend a little bit of time just seeing how mobile your feet are. Try and see if, you know, the toes are restricted, if the midfoot's restricted, if the heel is restricted, and of course the ankle itself. That's going to be something that we need to look at. But we'll go into that hopefully in another video. So spend a couple of minutes, always do both feet, have a little assessment, just see if there's any restrictions there, and then we'll talk further in another video, the relationship of the ankle to the rest of the body and how it moves in 3 planes of motion.